Today we have Dr. Matt Bramble, who's a faculty member here in pediatrics and global health at Children's National, who's doing really important work on a debilitating disease called konzo, which afflicts children in sub-Saharan Africa. Tell us a little bit about this really important disease.
Essentially a disease of poverty. It's influenced by the consumption of cassava, which is the world's fourth largest staple crop. When improperly prepared, this cassava and the toxins that are found in the cassava can result in a permanent paralysis affecting mostly young children. And there's no cure. The disease appears to be irreversible. And, our work is kind of unraveling the biology behind the disease. That way you could perhaps come up with preventative solutions, curative solutions, things of that nature. Bringing awareness to the disease so that agricultural chain behavioral practice can also shift to limit percentage of children who are going to be paralyzed for life otherwise.
Your lecture that you just presented was super inspirational, fascinating, and also sort of a bite-sized chunk that it's a disease, really important, but that you can put your arms around to try to understand and then ideally find the prevention or cure.
Yeah, I spent most of my time in the Congo, but Congo is a fantastic place as far as it covers everything. Every disease essentially known to man is in country, and you have to put in LMICs that I work in. You have to put your priorities, and I completely understand in things that are the most obvious and pressing.
So you say LMICs. For our viewers and listeners, what does that mean?
Low to middle income countries. Well, USA, for example, is a high income country. South Africa is a middle income, and there's low middle income, high middle income, and somewhere like Congo is considered a low income type country.
Yeah, and for the listeners out there, super important, although it's just a little acronym, it's important because socio-demographic lines, and there are diseases in LMICs, lower and middle income countries, different from those in high resource countries like the United States.
NGOs or organizations aren't interested in konzo yet because there's malaria, there's Ebola, there's HIV, there's cancer, there's malnourishment, there's everything under the sun. And LMICs have to often deal with all of these diseases all at once under a limited financial capacity, augmented by, agriculture problems, wars, climate change. You have to pick your priorities. And different countries have different priorities. If there's an Ebola outbreak in Congo, well, that needs to be priority number one. And that takes a lot of resources, a lot of money, and after all that happens, there's just less for everything that trickles down. But there's not a lot of, non-communicable diseases, particularly in LMICs, are predicted to certainly cause far more deaths than any communicable diseases in the future. So I think a lot of countries are beginning to shift their focus on understanding the non-communicable disease impact, particularly on the African continent, as opposed to just focusing all resources on communicable disease.
Well, part of my job here and Lead in Peds Unplugged is to promote your great work. You and others can really find a prevention or cure, and I really want to promote that. I want to thank you, Dr. Matt Bramble, for joining us on Lead in Peds Unplugged. And for our listeners out there, here's just an example of some of the great science that's emanating from Children's National Hospital. And if you want to hear more, not only about the great work that's happening here, but great work that's happening globally, please tune in. We have the full Lead in Peds that we publish on a monthly basis. You can download it wherever you download your podcasts. And thanks for joining us today.